Welcome back to the Dementia Collective, the podcast where we explore powerful stories and fresh ideas shaping the future of dementia care. If you're new here, my name is Andrew Karesa. I'm a caregiver, researcher, and founder of BlueBell Village. I created this space because I know what it's like firsthand to walk the dementia caregiving journey. I know what it's like to feel, lost, overwhelmed, and alone. But I also know the strength that comes from connection. Each episode, we dive into the people, tools, and innovations that are helping caregivers find their footing and their voice. Our mission to make dementia care more personal, more connected, and more grounded in Indigenous ways of knowing. The importance is ensuring every caregiver feels seen, heard, and supported. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Carrie Aalberts. Carrie Aalberts, also known as Dementia Darling, holds a Master's of Science specializing in gerontology and over 12 years of experience in dementia care. She is ingrained in the growing age tech community and is at the forefront of innovation in the dementia space. As Dementia Darling, Carrie has built a safe space online, providing education, support, and community for caregivers. Carrie's goal is to enhance quality of life, encourage joy, and challenge the tragedy narrative around dementia and aging. Thank you for joining us, Carrie. It's a pleasure.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So I think before we get started, let's get into a little bit of a special question. So we have a Patreon here where members of the village are able to support our show. One of the benefits that they get is members of the village, which is what we refer to them as, can get to ask the guest a question. Here is a question that was asked by one of the members of the village. Sometimes when I'm caring for my loved one, everything seems to go wrong and I get frustrated. How can I find joy even in the tough times?
What a good question, first off, and so real. Finding joy is really hard, but I think it's a conscious decision. So I love that you're asking this. I think when we stop and notice things, we can find joy easier and be in the moment. And one thing I really love and I see as a silver lining, if you will, to dementia care is people living with dementia teach us how to really truly be in the moment, right? Because that's what we have together and the mindfulness of that. So I want to encourage you, and I know this isn't always going to happen, especially in the midst of chaos, but when you can slow down and be in the moment and see those smiles between each other, take a moment, and if there's a song on your mind or something, singing and dancing, putting, in opportunities to see or find joy or create joy. We have to slow down. I create joy in my life by knowing when the sun goes down and I go and watch the sunset. And that is joy that I make for myself every day, that I want to see the sunset because that makes me happy. So it can be as simple as that, or, finding joy in those again, the smiles, the cleaned plates at dinner together and having, those moments, looking at the mundane, if you will, and seeing the joy of it and seeing the joy of everyday life that we sometimes miss, can help us see those things a little clearer. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it really reflects on the idea of like before you can really start to rely on this other person to drive your joy, you need to find the joy in yourself. And by having that joy in yourself, then we can imbue that into the people.
Joy changes throughout life, right? Like what I was found joyful at 21 is not the same anymore. At least not all the things. So I finding joy in the cup of coffee in your morning, and also seeing that the joy your loved one, excuse me, the things that bring joy to your loved one can and probably will change throughout dementia as well. And so when we put that pressure on us to say, well, joy is when, they're on the golf course and joy for me is when I'm at Disneyland. Yes, but in this season of life, we have to find attainable joy. And when we see our person changing and, say, oh, well, joy was them on the golf course. Well, now it could be talking about golf and talking about memories and watching golf. There could be other ways to find that joy, but give yourself grace in knowing that joy can change, and your joy that you miss or, that Disneyland can come back and will come back. but there's seasons of life where it's just not going to happen, right? And because we're stuck in the thick of this and we're showing up for others, but know that it will come back and it's not gone forever. Joy is possible. It's there, I promise, but it changes.
So, Carrie, how did you get into this space?
Oh my goodness. I think, and I say this and I always want to like preface, I'm not trying to be cheesy or anything, but like I truly was born to do this work since I could remember. I have gravitated towards older adults. My grandmother passed away when I was 13, but she was catapulted into dementia when I was 6. And my dad became the family caregiver overnight after a horrible accident. And so that kind of those years up until I was 13, kind of seeing my grandma change and then my dad take on this role and see like him showing this intense emotion for the first time. I've never seen my dad cry until that, things like that. It stuck with me. And so when I went to college and it was kind of time to figure that out, um, my parents were like, "Hey, they have a gerontology school and you love elders. It's kind of, what is it? Job security. We're all aging. Go see if you like it. Like we think you would." And done. It was just sealed. Like the first class, I learned about Tipa Snow. I learned about, so many things that I still care about so much about today. And they put me right into a intergenerational adult daycare center. And it was like, this is why I'm on this earth. Like these people, and this is where I feel most alive and where I'm gonna use my gifts, if you will, to make people feel seen and feel supported and find joy. So it just, it really has been like this kind of slow burn until I finally got to care for people with dementia. And it was like, oh, everything makes sense. What has led me here? So that was kind of like how I got to even get in this space.
When you were caring, or when your dad was caring for your grandmother, how involved were you in that process?
Not very. And I kind of want to go back and be like, girl, what were you doing? But I was, what, 6 to 13 years old. No idea. Like I will never forget. She's brushing my hair. It was her assisted living. So this was years into it. Uh, but my sister and I, we would sleep over at the assisted living. They did that then. And I don't know if people still do that, but we would go and I remember eating pea soup and and then going to her room and watching TV. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And she brushed my hair. I remember it like pulled my earring. I just got my ears pierced and I was like, ow. And she didn't respond to my pain. And I remember thinking that was so weird. And like, what is going on with grandma? And like, I remember these little moments like that where I was just that judgy teen and I was like, that was weird. And like, I never learned what happened. Like, no one ever explained to us. And I'm not blaming anyone. My parents didn't know, like, they weren't explained Alzheimer's really. Like, they were trying their best. And so, I really wasn't involved. I was just there for the ride and, would go on Sundays after church to visit when I had to, but then I started to like it when I would go and, we'd get popcorn and play games in the front, and grandma would watch and stuff. But I was really not involved. And I wish that's why I'm so passionate about like storybooks for children now and getting involved and having a better understanding and respect for what is happening.
Do you think that your approach now is really predicated on the experience that you had as a child?
I think it definitely has to do with that because of, I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot of guilt around not being like present and noting, but I'm also very like giving myself grace. I was very young. and
Totally.
but but yes, I think it does drive, the conversations I want to have and the inclusivity of what a caregiver looks like.
I mean, I think there's such an interesting role that the child can play in that dementia caregiving
100%. And they are
experience and
caregivers.
relationship.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I've talked about it before, I think, on the show that one of my fondest memories of my grandmother, she went through Alzheimer's near the end of her life, was um, her doing puzzles with my oldest. And I don't know, I think he would have been 3, 4 maybe at this point. And his cognitive incline was kind of coming in line with her cognitive decline. And they were doing these Alzheimer's puzzles. that my family bought, and they were doing these things together, and they're actively working together. And it was a bit of struggle for both of them, but they were doing this thing together, and he was like helping grandma out or great grandma out and doing these kind of things. I'm like, that's amazing. That's the empathetic, supportive caregiving lessons I think that the next generation really needs.
Oh, 100%. And that's why I fell in love so hard too, because I was at an intergenerational adult daycare center. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this growing up because, these kids from the preschool would come over twice a day to where I had 40 adults, living with cognitive change, mainly dementia. And they would come over and have a snack and hang out and do activities. And these children grew up with such inclusivity, and they weren't scared of wheelchairs. They weren't scared of, grandma and grandpa being a little different. Like they just got it and it felt right. And it was such a beautiful connection that we would see every day. And just, they had 40 grandmas and grandpas that they could, be supported by. It's beautiful and it's beneficial to everyone. And if you ask me, I mean, adult daycare is the future of care and affordability, affordable care. And we have to tie in that intergenerational piece because that's community care. That's how it should be. We all need, all the ages should be together. We learn from each other and it's good for us.
Mhm. So you did an undergrad in gerontology.
Yes, I focused in gerontology, and then I was able to I did a human development track and then focused in gerontology. And then I got my Master of Science as well. I got to keep going. And so I have my master's focused in gerontology. And my thesis was surrounding a family Alzheimer's support, 6-week support like thing I created. And yeah, it was just incredible. And so from there, I went into the senior living world in activities, because if you can't tell, I'm definitely an activities girl. So I like to bring the fun.
So how did it look coming into activities post master's degree? How did that look?
Oh my gosh, it was exciting. And also like, I did not go to school for art. What am I doing? Or like, I'm not very creative, thinking those things have to be part of that. But it really is just about wanting to bring joy and life and engagement to people and make their days brighter. It is such a gift of a job. I loved it. And it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It was very difficult. I had to get through years of figuring out that I wasn't a failure for not getting to every resident every day. I mean, my first place I worked in was like 70 elders and only 2 of us, maybe 3. And it's hard, to have that engagement, and to also, when you're in activities, you get called to do all the things. So you're caregiving one day and you're pulled into other, departments. I remember having to do kitchen work, making eggs in the morning. So you do a lot of things. And it looked a lot like supporting the families. I realized I was kind of like a therapist almost for the families, because I was someone who was there to talk to them and see the changes in their loved one and help them communicate and help them having, these moments of connection, which was just so beautiful. But it's a really heavy job. And I realized how emotional it was. I had to learn to take care of myself, and I still am learning. But I remember, going through my first death, and seeing someone pass away that I loved and got really close to over months, and of working there, and then being called in from with hospice team to help prepare her, to leave the building. And it was just, I'll never forget those moments that really put in my face the mirror of, okay, this work, yes, it's amazing, you love it, but it's sacred, and there's so much more that I have to learn. And I just remember it was really heavy but beautiful.
Do you think that now you've learned how to almost compartmentalize a bit, where this is my care, these are the individuals that I'm caring for. I can't take it home with me. I just need to figure out how do I care for them the best way I can, but I can't bring that home with me. I can't let that impact my family.
I haven't gotten there yet, so if anyone has, please let me know. I had to leave the direct care space during COVID because it was too hard for me personally. I couldn't keep losing people that I loved. It was just too much, and I couldn't be my best self that way. So I went into the tech world because I can't do that. And even now, with being Dementia Darling online and the messages and the stories and just the things that I hear day to day are really hard for me to separate in my mind. I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive person. I hold on to things and I just hold on to the weight of the world. So I often am told, "Why are you doing this work? This is not good for your brain, ma'am." But again, it's why I know I need to be here to do this work. But that's why I have to be in therapy, and that's why I have to work on myself, and I have to work on boundaries because it's such difficult work. And family caregivers, they can't do that. They can't take time off. They can't switch, jobs. That's just not the reality. And so it's a privilege that I'm able to do that and receive mental health support. I want to make sure that's acknowledged.
Do you think that you would have been able to do Dementia Darling had you not have had that lived experience caring in facilities?
I wouldn't be Dementia Darling without it. I wouldn't have the un- understanding, at least enough understanding. I will never understand until I am a family caregiver myself. I have not been a family caregiver, only professional, and I want to make sure that's acknowledged as well. Um, but without that, I would have never seen the reality that from my perspective of what family caregivers are going through and having that put on my heart so heavily to push into the work of supporting the family caregivers because I was so focused on the person living with dementia, which is wonderful, and I still am. But through those experiences and through meeting all these amazing families that just have a stain on my heart forever, and I just wanted them, I wanted better for them. And so without that experience, no, I definitely wouldn't be here.
Oftentimes people talk about institutional or systematic barriers or problems that come about in these sort of facilities. What was your experience in that?
So many barriers. There's so much that's broken. I don't even, we in this industry in healthcare too, and I know this is very much common in Canada too. I mean, it's just it, it's so hard to get the right care, and specifically in brain health and finding the dementia support, something that is often invisible. You have to go to, these specialists, and we don't have those available. So there's so many barriers in so many ways, but in the care system, if you will, it's not a system, but it's so broken. And the barriers to are endless because I'm thinking, the barriers of not having the capacity to pay the caregiving staff what they deserve. So you do not get the best staff. You do not get the consistent care and support that these people deserve. The barriers of having communities that can take people with high needs. That is such an issue. Families are left in the lurch. They might, be admitted into a place and then all of a sudden they're like, "We can't handle your person. We can't handle this agitation. You have 30 days to get out of there." And they don't have other options. That's such a barrier. And but the biggest would be cost of senior living care, senior care in general. And when people run out of money, they're literally sent to a Medicaid building and often pass away pretty fast because it's completely different. They don't have the care. There's bed bugs, and like, I'm not trying to, say this, generalize all of them, but from my experience, when people were sent to these Medicare buildings because they ran out of money to stay in this 10,000 a month place that I was working at, they would often, they would decline so fast. And so that, I mean, the barrier to care, the barrier to good care, the barrier to the staff having the support that they need is just wild. So it's across the board, and um, so many things that are holding us back from providing better care.
So where I live right now, we have like 90% of people living with dementia at home being cared for by their
Okay.
family,
Yeah.
which is, it wasn't by design. It was by the fact that there's not enough institutionalized facilities. The wait list to get into a provincially funded one is super long, and there's a whole bunch of barriers to access it. So we're seeing 90% of people living at home with their families. This ultimately, like you alluded to, that puts a burden on the family.
Yeah.
How do you suggest that families navigate that, where they are they're like, I want to get support, I want to get help, um, but I can't put them in a facility. Maybe I don't want to put them in a facility. I have to care for them at home, or maybe in their home and I visit them all the time. But it's complicated because I'm not a caregiver. I don't have a degree in health or gerontology. I'm a min person, or I'm a teacher, whatever it is, something different. How do you suggest that they approach that? How do they start that relationship? How do they start that process
Yeah.
of caring effectively?
No, absolutely. And I wish I had like a secret answer. Like, I wish I had the answer for you. But unfortunately, we are not in a place globally, like in the US and Canada, anywhere, where we are really ready to support dementia caregivers for what they truly need. And the lack of resources, specifically if you do not have the money to get support, is so difficult. And that is the majority of people in these positions, right? And even if you have money, it doesn't guarantee you have the resources available in your area. Um, so I first want to say no one knows dementia care intuitively. And even me, with devoting my life to this, when it comes to my own family, when this pops up, it all goes away. So please give yourself grace in knowing, just because you're not an expert, no one is an expert. We're all learning. Dementia is wild. The brain is wild. We're all still learning. Okay. So that's why I don't even say I'm not an expert. We have so much to learn about the brain and dementia. So give yourself grace. You're literally learning a new language. You're learning a whole new world of what is possible. So first off, take it in chunks. Do not go full on into learning the whole progression of the disease necessarily, just one step at a time. But know that there are a lot of free supports to learn. There are so many resources where you can educate yourself. Educating yourself is self-care. It is empowerment and knowing what could come and what to be prepared for legally, like have like power of attorney, talk to an elder law attorney. Those things are really important because as your person progresses, it gets more difficult to get those signatures and all the things. So first off, that is really important. But not waiting until crisis to get in a support group. There's so many free, amazing support groups online, or I'm sure in your community as well, that you could find. But going through this with other people is everything. Finding your community, finding other caregivers, because those are your people who are going to understand. And that's how you find out about services and other things, is through other caregivers. You're like, oh my gosh, that worked for you. Tell me how to get that. Um, there are also grants if you want to put in for different grants for like respite care. Obviously, that's not foolproof. Obviously, not everyone gets them. So that's another thing. But like seeing what is available and just applying. The worst case, if you don't need it and you get it and you get in right away, you say, give it to the next person, keep me on the list. But see what resources are available. Go on Google, dementia caregiver support, look up specifics. If you know your specific diagnosis, Lewy body support, look up, the specific diagnosis if you have that. But I know this is a lot, but just know that no matter what the doctor told you, because they often say, get your affairs in order, you have dementia, whatever. This could be years and years. So take a breath and do what you can every day or every other day, just do what you can. But no, it's not not everything's going to happen tomorrow. They're not just going to, be in last stages of Alzheimer's tomorrow. So give yourself grace and knowing it's okay. Take a breath. We're going to get through this. There are so many resources and so many people out there that want to help you. But unfortunately, there isn't this streamlined, here's a list. This is what you should do. So it's really about finding the right people and kind of diving into that world. And another thing, I know I'm saying so much. Another thing is really utilizing tech tech is going to be your best friend. If you can't, um, you know, people, we can't afford to live in these communities. So we're going to have to use camera systems for the front door to make sure they don't leave the front door if that's an issue. If your person leaves, it wanders out, and it's a safety thing. Utilizing, I'm going to be sharing about Jubilee TV, where you can literally see them through their TV, and you can check to make sure they're there and they're okay. And you can help change the TV channel for them if they get confused. Like, it's incredible. And so you can do a lot of things from afar. You can do things like, changing the knobs on their stove so they can't turn them on at certain, and that's a safe thing. Like, you can find things to keep them aging in place or with you, and things like that can help take that things off of your plate and just keep people safer. So those are the kind of things we have to really lean into as we age in place.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So we had Rachel Wonderland on a while
Yes.
back, and she was telling me about this tech that it's kind of a faux Amazon, let's say. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, Carewell.
Yeah, amazing, right? The
Yeah,
the folks
yeah.
can kinda go through and select what they want. I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's amazing," and it
All for
reintegrates
caregivers.
them and gets them processing. I mean, so our company was kind of built and operates around this technology that really gives caregivers support. So we have a tech called BlueBell Connect that gives caregivers in their phone tools, techniques, activities, supports that are, clinically valid, personally specific, and culturally appropriate. So they don't have to try and search. They have it readily available. You need it, boom, here
Yes.
it is on the fly. And I mean, the feedback we've heard and experienced is that, caregivers want these supports because they don't necessarily know what to do, where to turn. I just need something quickly that works, that is, correct. I don't have to try and use subjectivity myself to evaluate it. Let's just tell me what I need to know. Let's just get this thing moving, right?
Who can I trust? And there are a lot of, on social media, you have a lot of amazing people to choose from. If who you want to follow us all. But if I'm not your vibe, there's 1,000 others that are incredible. There's so many beautiful people that are creating amazing content that you can trust, that's dignified. And there's just this area of healthcare that, at least in my experience, is this industry, if you will, of senior care and dementia care, is so different and so special. And we're all trying really hard.
And I think what's amazing, Carrie, is that all y'all are so good at, helping instead of being antagonistic and trying to negatively create drama and discourse amongst everyone. It's like everyone seems to be like, this person's doing this good thing over here. I'm
Yes.
doing this good thing over here. And we're all kind of doing what we're trying to do to work collaboratively towards a common unified goal, as opposed to, I find other spaces are very discourse heavy. And I think that speaks to the desire of care for our elders, that we want collective good. I mean, way more you guys than me, but like,
No,
I think
you are
that's the
part
the
of it. We're
objective.
all in this together. And I agree with you. And I think that's really special. And it's something I always want to cultivate, is that we are in this together. I'm sorry, but I know we have to pay our bills, but there is no competition. There are so many people that need help. We have to work together. I don't know everything, and Rachel is better at certain things than I, and we, if you want this, you go to Rachel. If you want this, you go to Adria Thompson. If you want this, go learn from James Lee, what he's doing at Bella Groves. It's just really powerful, because when we come together, we can really change the game, and we have to, because it's not working. And we're all angry. We're all very kind people, but we're all angry, and we want to change what this experience is for us as we age.
So you mentioned you created your organization because didn't want to be in facilities anymore. So what was that journey like, actually, creating it, shifting to an online tech platform and, a media platform during COVID?
So I actually didn't um start Dementia Darling thinking it would ever be something I could do for work, ever. I started it when I was an activity director in Colorado. I was about to leave and move back to Las Vegas, but I started it because, yeah, I was like, okay, this is breaking my heart. I keep hugging these caregivers that I meet every day. And I'm often one of the first people in years to ask them how they're doing and to thank them for all that they do and tell them, yeah, you're allowed to say this sucks and all the things. And so that's why I started an Instagram. I was like, how can I cheer on all the caregivers that feel so isolated? And so 6 years ago, I started, 6.5 years ago, I started Dementia Darling. And then it was so that was October of 2019, right before COVID. So I was like, that's perfect, if you will, timing of people coming to the internet, like coming to social media more than usual. And that's where it was like, oh my gosh, I've been looking for someone like you. And it's just, I've been, working on it through that time. I went into being a caregiver at an adult daycare center, or being a manager for an adult daycare center out here. And that's where I was doing Dementia Darling and got super burnt out in the care. And that's when, still doing Dementia Darling, went to a tech company in senior care, and was able to still be in communities, but traveling. So only being there for a short amount of time. But kept going with Dementia Darling, and then started getting brand deals, started getting speaking gigs, and building that community. And then in May of 2024, I was with an amazing company. I love them, Eugeria. They're in Montreal, and they're a woman-owned business. They're like the best dementia care innovations from all over the world. They distribute. And
Interesting.
so I was working with them, love them, and will always preach them. But then I was just feeling like, okay, I've been saying no to a lot of opportunities. Maybe I should just jump off the cliff and try Dementia Darling full time. And so it's been a year and a half of, almost 2 years. In May will be 2 years of Dementia Darling full time, speaking and doing content creation, and just working with companies to try to make change as much as possible. So it was never in the plan. Like, it was never an option in my head, like, especially when I was getting my degrees, that I could be this educator online and be my own boss. And it still is kind of hard for me to wrap my head around. But my path it just kind of evolved and felt right.
Hmm. Wow. I mean, you're doing a lot. I hear your name, and I see you all the time in different uh, platforms, and I think you're doing amazing work.
Thank you.
Do you think that the hair being pink is helping you, with that recognition, because you are synonymous with pink hair and dementia?
I hope so. It's part of the marketing. No, I always wanted to have pink hair, and then I finally was like, why not? And I did it, and I'm never going back. And it's definitely helped the business, not gonna lie. And I'm not good with names. So it's helpful when I'm at events and people can come up to me, and because I'm easy to find. So that's really helpful for me. So I'm like, just find the pink haired girl, makes it easy on me. And yeah, no, I hope it's kind of that sign on, if you're scrolling, oh, there, like, she's a spot of color, a pop of, color on my feed that can bring a little joy and education. Yeah, no, it's definitely part of the vibe.
So, what services are you specifically providing for caregivers between online education, uh, services, videos, those sort of things? What sort of things can caregivers find that you can support them with?
Absolutely. I am still at a point where I'm still trying to figure out how I want to really truly spend my time with family caregivers personally, because I do not want to ever, if I can avoid it, and still pay my bills, um, monetize anything, like make family caregivers pay for anything from me. They shouldn't have to pay for education. In my head, they shouldn't have to pay for support. And I wish that were true across the board, right? I mean, that's the dream. And so, right, as I'm still figuring out how to grow as a business, I am really focused on companies, senior living companies, or tech companies that will sponsor me to speak at events for family caregivers. So that's what I've been doing, where a company will bring me out, and then they'll have a caregiver conference, and that's where I get to get in front of family caregivers, and the families don't have to pay for it. So that's been my focus, is trying to get companies and other people to fund that for caregivers. So I do in person or webinar events that are sponsored and free for family caregivers, and I always post about those on my pages when those are available. But my content on Dementia Darling across Instagram is where I'm most active, but Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn and Threads, I post pretty much every day. And so that is free content. I have over 2,000, I think 2,800 posts or something that you can go through.
Wow.
So you can, even if, I'm not posting right now about what you need, scroll back. I have touched on so much over the last 6 years, and those are across my social media channels. I have stuff on my website. I share resources all the time. I'm always lifting up resources for you. I try to lift up only affordable things or free things. I try really hard. Um, so that's kind of what I provide for families right now. But I work with senior living communities since I have my background in that as well. So I come in and I train their staff on, different dementia subjects. I kind of reinvigorate, change mindsets. It's easy to get kind of lost in doing the same things in care settings. So I try to go in and kind of reinvigorate what is possible. And then also as well, they have me do family nights and engagements and educations for their families. So that's another way I can support families. Um, and then, working with companies to share innovation that can help your lives a little bit is really what I'm focused on. So you will be the first. Everyone will know when I have direct supports for individual family caregivers. But yeah, I really want to figure out how to do it as cheap as possible or free for family
Hmm.
caregivers, because again, they should never have to pay for the support. It's just not fair. It's not fair how expensive being a family caregiver is, specifically for dementia. It's the most, um, I think it's the most expensive disease to to take care of, because of the progressiveness and how it just keeps building the care needs, and how long the journey can be. It is just one of the most expensive journeys.
And what I find interesting is I've talked to one of the individuals, in this space who's very well respected, very well known, and they were hired by a family and they flew to their city and they were hired to, to help me make this decision of which facility to put them in. And they're saying that uh, they went to this very, very expensive facility and they were appalled because didn't matter how much you're paying, they were still putting you in a chair. They were trying to feed the individuals, removing the autonomy of the people with the dementia. And they're telling me a story. I'm mind blown about the fact that, we have these wonderfully expensive facilities. We expect a superior level of care, but that's not always the case.
No.
Instead, sometimes the less expensive facilities, because the staff is just, giving it their all. I'm not saying the other ones don't, but
Right.
they're going above and beyond. You sometimes see that better level of care than in these facilities where you're paying $10,000 a
Yep.
month, whatever it is.
Yep. Oh, it's heartbreaking. The staff makes everything. And it says a lot when I go to places and their staff has been there years and years and years. I went to a place in Memphis. I don't think anyone on the care staff was under 10 years of being there.
Wow.
And that's huge. I was like, that's your selling point right there. Like, that's everything. Because the turnover is, even just for executive directors, I think the turnover is 3 years is like the normal. And that's not a lot. But for care staff, I mean, the turnover, at least during COVID, oh my gosh, I would just learn their names and they were gone. Or they would go through training, their one day of training, watching videos, they get on the floor, someone's agitated, and they're out. And then you start over and get a new person because the training isn't there. So they lose people too. But you're right. I mean, it's unfortunate, just because something is pretty does not, it's does not mean it's going to be good care. Unfortunately, I hate to see when budget goes more to making the bushes outside look good than the education of your staff is second to that. It just blows my mind what money is put into at certain places when it should be the education, the support for their staff and their families. And we have to be changing um, how people are brought into the care world and how they're taught, because that is their basis, right? And if you come in and you're under a manager who doesn't really care about person-centered care, doesn't and is just heads in beds, because I worked for a woman like that. And that was my first job out of um college, and she almost drove me out of the industry completely. She was so heartbreaking for me to be under. And it took away a lot of the like hope and all the things that I thought senior living was. And I'm so glad I didn't stop, and I had other wonderful experiences after. But you can be management and your team is everything.
I mean, so we started this company with the idea of we want to build a dementia village where I live. That's what it's called, BlueBell Village,
Yeah.
at
It's
least in Oak Park.
amazing.
And what was interesting in that was that when we were talking to investors and we were talking to banks and then people that had land, all these kind of things, the question was always prefaced around what's the return on investment per bed? How much are you going to make per head? What's the capacity percentage? How much do we need to be fully occupied to be sustainable? And totally fair economic questions, but they underpin a paradigm shift for what the actual focus was, right? Was not focused on let's just make as much money for per person per bed as possible. But that's what the models are shifted on. I mean, James is a great example of that, where the objective is not to make as much money per bed as possible, it's to make as much good per person as possible.
Exactly.
And the system is fundamentally flipped.
Yes. It doesn't compute that like sales mindset in this industry. These are people's lives. And this is people's livelihood and living their best life. And I love that you're on this mission, because I do see this wave of these villages and I think that's how we should be living. I think that's community care. I think that's how I would want to live in the future. But yeah, no, it can be really heartbreaking sometimes when you hear those comments back and you're like, can't we look at the bigger picture here? Like, I've had to kind of spin it, unfortunately, and say, if your training is better and your engagement's better, people live longer and they have to pay you rent longer. I was like, is that what you need to hear? That it's worth having tech that helps people live happy lives, because if they live longer, you'll get more paychecks. Like, if that's the only motivator for you to do, if that's where I have to go, that's where I'll go. But it's true. So give them what they deserve, and you're going to have happy, longer living people.
What's interesting is there's a discourse um, amongst, let's say, dementia influencers about painted doors and walls. I want to know your thought. I love this conversation, and we've had a lot of folks on that have different perspectives on this. So waterfall painted doors or whatever imagery you want, I don't care. Thoughts?
I used to like them. I do not anymore. I am not for the illusions because I feel that it's like a trick, and I don't like that. It's kind of a call into dignity, if you ask me, like using the black on the floor so people don't leave the front door because it looks like a hole. That's a scare tactic. Like, I used to be all for those things, but now I see the kind of dignity issue behind it, and it doesn't necessarily work. And if let's say it's a waterfall and you see someone walk out it, but you're not allowed to walk out it, that just adds more confusion and agitation. And you're like, someone just walked through, that makes no sense. And now or a bookcase, like, why can they go? Why is there an exit? It just doesn't compute. And I just feel like it's a lack of dignity in some areas. I used to honestly be all for them. But the last 2 years, I've really opened my eyes to the trickery we sometimes do, which is there's a line there because I am all about therapeutic fibbing, if you will, the fiblets, the, lying for their betterment. I would want someone to lie to me, and so I'm not in this perpetual state of grief or whatever. I agree with that, but yeah, when it comes to the facade of certain things, I have a hard time now. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I
hard
get
because,
it.
I mean, there's also the same point of, like, mm, would they really believe a waterfall is in this building? You just have a random waterfall. Like, some things, just don't make sense. I mean, but the question is, where do we draw the line? As a caregiver, I want, in my case, it was my grandma. I want my grandmother to have the best quality of life. That's what I wanted for my grandmother. So how do I, as a caregiver, draw a line between, like, this will work and increase her quality of life instead of her quantity of life? How do I make these determinations of put her in these places that have these things, or don't, or I bring in the supports that approach it this way, when they understand these things? It's hard to really wrestle with this thing because there's so much happening.
And so many opinions, so many different ways to do things, so many. And at the end of the day, nothing's going to work fully for everyone, especially with dementia, but anyone. I mean, we're all so different. So for some people, that might be really comforting. For others, that just wouldn't make sense because that would never be in their home. And, with the village concept, I'm really into it being as much as possible looking like a home environment. It needs to be home, not medical model. And those kind of things sometimes they just don't they take me out of that. Um but I see the benefit of them in certain places when and I see and we're all learning in different ways, and it might really work for someone's residents, and then the next kind of group of residents come in and they hate it. So it's just we're all doing our best and trying things. So not saying anyone's undignified or not, but we're just trying. And that's the hard part, is just trying to figure out what is the best, but we don't know. So we're always, trying to see what is the next best thing, and I see where people go with those. I see the vision. Um but I think it's just a whole systematic thing of I wish, we didn't have to put a fake outdoor scene, but they actually had access to the outdoors and had big windows, and that's a whole other idealistic thing. But yeah.
Do you typically support just people in the United States, or do you support outside as well?
Globally, I mean, I have people all over the world that follow Dementia Darling that I speak with. I was yeah, a lot in Canada for sure, UK. I have a cool little following in the Bahamas, and Nigeria is one of my top follows. So, and then Australia as well. Yeah, and so I've done work with different countries. I spoke in France a year and a half ago on a panel. So yeah.
How do you see dementia care across the different jurisdictions?
Oh, well, community care is like the intergenerational care is so much more prominent in Europe and in other areas because you live with family, you live intergenerationally. It's not a failing to still live with your parents like it is in the U.S. So it's the community care in that of all the generations living together and supporting each other is really different. What is interesting is, some people I've talked to from South America and India and Africa, some people don't even have the words or say the word dementia out loud yet in their communities. So that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other discussion, is like truly even getting the words out and like awareness that people, yes, they're living with dementia. We're not hiding it anymore. So there's kind of like a spectrum there. And I feel like we're kind of Canada and the US, we're kind of in the middle. Australia, I feel, is doing some really amazing things and kind of ahead of the game, if you ask me, with the philosophies and understanding and being dignified and uh, There's a really great global group, Open the Doors. I'm sure you've heard of, and it's the Open the Door Collective, where they're really advocating for unlocking memory care units and changing how that goes. And, why is only one group of people in the world we lock behind doors in these healthcare settings?
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, so everybody is unique. Everyone goes through different experiences. My grandmother, she lived in a apartment with my grandfather till the day that she passed away, and doors were never locked. She never had any desire to wander. I mean, she had mobility issues near the end, but she didn't want to wander. She was happy in her chair, talking, doing normal-ish things. So, like, locking, if she was in an institutionalized facility locked up, I wonder if the negative manifestations would have been there, because she had the autonomy to, if she wanted to, she could have got up and these kind of things. She could have. Didn't want to, but she could have. The freedom was there. But now you're forced into this other boundary, other constraint that says you can't do this.
Yeah. But you see other people walk through them, but you're not allowed. Like, yeah. I would internalize that too. Like, I'm in trouble. I'm in jail. I'm in trouble. What is going on? I'm an adult. Why am I locked somewhere? And that would create agitation just knowing it's locked. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So what sort of impact have you felt or heard from Dementia Darling with caregivers?
Gosh, it's just amazing. It's the messages I get are just so powerful, and family caregivers every day just amaze me and fill my heart. Getting messages that I help people through their hardest times, that it still is hard for me to even say that, because it's hard for me to fathom, because you don't realize how many people you touch when you're on social media. And I'm sure you can feel that. Like, you don't even know the person across the world that's listening to this podcast. Like, you can't fathom sometimes. And to think, like, if I was in a football stadium and I had my followers here, the whole thing would be filled. Like, that's wild. And so getting the messages that, when I didn't know what, I was crying at 2 a.m., I didn't know what to do, but I went to your page and you gave me hope. Like, those messages are everything to me. I want to be that person in their corner. I want to be that person that's, reminding them how incredible they are, and that they're not messing up, that they are enough, and they're allowed to feel all the feelings, and that they're human. And those messages that I get, that's like, thank you for reminding me I'm allowed to care for myself. Thank you for reminding me that um, it doesn't mean I don't love my mom if I'm angry and I don't like this job. Those messages are just very powerful, and seeing them from across the world, from all different ages of caregivers. I've had, men that are in their 80s taking care of their wives, and they make an Instagram to follow me, and their messages are just amazing. I have this gentleman for 4 years now. He keeps me updated on his wife, and he's like, you have changed my life, because now I see things differently. I see my wife differently. I see this time I have with her differently. I know how to find joy with her. And it's like, that is the most amazing thing ever. So, yeah, those messages, I have chills right now. Those messages is giving people, any type of hope or support is everything to me.
Wow. Can you talk to us a bit about Rune? I know that
Yeah.
you're advertising and talking about Rune quite a bit on your website. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Rune is really cool. It's this free platform, and I really like it because you have different perspectives. So you'll see a lot of people in this space. You'll see I'm on there, Teepa Snow. I don't know if Rachel's on there, but there's a lot of different ones. And then there's doctors, there's family caregivers, there's just like people living with dementia. There's all different perspectives, all answering questions that you may have. So if you go in and there's all these different sections. So you can go into Rune Dementia. And again, this is free. It's on a website, or you can do it on your phone. And you would go like under agitation, and then there's questions with videos, and you can go to who you want the answer from. Do you want it from someone living with dementia, or do you want the answer from a neurologist, or do you want to watch them all? And then you get all these different viewpoints, and I just think it's so beautiful, and the fact that it's free is everything. And so I even see it for professional caregivers. You're on the floor, you do not know what to do. You have this question about incontinence, go on here and find the one from Teepa Snow, or find the one from me, or whatever. And so I love the different perspectives, and Rune has different categories. So they have like women's health, they have endometriosis, they have I think ALS and dementia. And yeah, highly recommend just looking in there, because you can, look at different types of dementia, different symptoms that are difficult to work through, different grief, emotional things for the families. But I just think it's really cool how they've created this and kept it free. And yeah, all the different questions. And I think you can put in different questions you want them to answer. But they have so many already there that are just really great and fast. They're all on like 3 to 5 minutes.
which is perfect. I mean,
Right?
caregivers, right? They don't have a long time to search. I mean, I have asked questions or to caregivers, how do you access the information that you need? How are you searching if I have a question? They're like, I'll go to the Alzheimer's Society and I want to read it, but I don't have time.
Don't have time.
I'm like, fair enough. When stuff's hitting the fan or stuff is hard, I don't have an hour to go through something or spend half a day doing a course. Like, I need something now, turn it around, let's move. Let's move along, right?
Absolutely. I think that's why I think like TikTok has surpassed Google in people asking for questions on TikTok. So people go there now. And I'm not saying everyone's great on TikTok, but man, I learned so much from family caregivers on TikTok, because they're in it, right? And they might come on and be like, okay, so this happened last night and this is what I did. And people are like, oh my gosh, that's a lifesaver. And I mean, you can find a lot on social media. It's pretty amazing. But of course, always be very cognizant of what you're taking in and who it's from. And if something feels off, do not don't don't listen to them. But just fact check a little bit who you're listening to. But you can really get some just amazing in the moment, like, oh my gosh, she totally gets it. That's exactly what my night was like, because they're in it too.
Yeah, sometimes just the firsthand debrief that a person, uh, an average caregiver, just doing their day to day, can just be that thing. So it's like, I'm not alone. Nobody ever said the caregiving experience is fun. It's the most satisfying thing, right? It's fundamentally hard. It's difficult. It's tiring. It's worrisome. It's all these emotions on the negative. And we also have all the positive sides too. Like, it's fulfilling, the joy of seeing something light up the room. You have the highs really, really high, and the super lows. You have this wide gap, right?
Yeah. And they're riding this wave of ups and downs for sometimes years and years and years. And it's like, and a lot of these millennial caregivers, and younger Gen Z, and, even younger, but like they're growing up. They're literally becoming who they are through these long journeys of caregiving too, which is totally, flipping them upside down with how they expected their life to go and expected where to be at this point in life, or what have you. And it's a lot, and it's a lot to carry. And then everything going on in the world too. I mean, it's so much, and it's long, and it's heavy, and it's beautiful, and it's all the things.
What I find is so interesting, Carrie, in general, we look at caregivers kind of from a 40,000-foot view, is the amount of caregivers that are leaving other fields to enter into this dementia space to make a difference. I talked about the
Yes.
example, like, I'm an engineer. I worked oil and gas like for over a decade, like, but I left and now I'm in this space. I have friends that were in education. I have friends that were in totally unrelated fields too, but we have entered into this space because we want to make a difference. We want to be able to bring these unique skills in there. And I think caregivers themselves are experiencing this. They're like, we're not we're not masters, we're not educated in this thing, but we're just trying to do the best we can. We're just trying to enter into space because we love our loved one more than anything. And I find that they resonate so much with those unique, different perspectives that aren't the conventional. I'm a neurologist. This is my
Yes,
clinical opinion on these things. Like, I don't want a clinical opinion. I want something that's real down
exactly.
to earth. This is how I understand the world.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of, and not everyone has to make their caregiving experience into this whole, oh, this is the reason and I'm going to now do this for a living. But I have met so many people that have just been like, wow, this was the pivot that just blew my mind for my life, that like this is what I need to be doing because invention comes from necessity, right? So like these
Mhm.
caregivers, I mean, when you're at your lowest, you're hitting these points and you're like, I wish I had da 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 for me and now they create it. Like my favorite inventions are from caregivers, like Zinnia TV. She created that for her husband. It worked. So now it's a full blown business and she left her, work and now they have Zinnia TV for dementia pretty much. And it's just like Netflix for dementia care. And it's just incredible. Um, and there's a long list of companies I can say like that, and that caregivers who completely switched their life after their journey because they were like, this is why I'm here, is to help people that I was in when I was, because I've been there. But as well, yeah, I meet a lot of innovators because I'm part of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative. So I see all the innovation come in and the engineers and the people that are like, my heart's on this because I'm seeing it in my family now and I'm like all in. I want to use my talents for this cause. Like people care, and people, once you're hit by dementia in some way, you're touched by it, you're never the same. And you do a lot of the time want to speak up about it. Some people don't, and that's okay. But I feel like I see it so much on people's hearts to speak up after their journeys or during their journeys and really step into that. And it's beautiful, but it just shows how expansive and um, how impactful the dementia experience can be for people. It's a full family experience, not just the person and caregiver. Everyone's touched that loves someone with living with dementia.
Is there anything that you did because you thought it was best practice then that you go back and like, ooh, that was not the best choice? Obviously, we probably all had the experience,
Well, a
but can
lot
you
of
talk
things.
about that experience? Like, this is what I was taught. I did what I was instructed on how to care for these things, but now looking back, no bueno, not the right approach in the situation. Can you talk about an
This is
experience
such
that
a
you
good
had like that?
question because if I really thought about it, I could probably think of a few things. Um, First thing that pops in my head is I was kind of, or no, okay, I was conditioned by that really bad executive director I kind of mentioned earlier to hide from the families and to fear them because they could sue us. So I literally was like taught to
Oh
not
boy.
talk to families and to be scared of them. So I had to learn not to. And I had to really condition myself to not do that because it was demonized in my head that we do not want to, like, liability and da, 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 and the families want to make drama for us and want to make our life hard. No, no, no. But that was my first job out of college. I was like, okay, yeah, that's how it is here. And I learned how, and now I preach this, like how we have to be on the same team and we have to make sure that these families know they're allowed to be upset. We can't take that personally. This is the hardest time in their life, probably. And then they're met with these, teenage girls that are like, at their job. And, of course it just becomes them versus us. Like, we can't do that. And so that was one thing that I cannot believe I was conditioned to think that way. Um, and then second, I'm thinking as well, I'm pretty vocal about this. And I know this isn't exactly what you were asking, but I was so staunchly against like trying certain tech for people living with dementia because I was like, there's no way that would work. I'm just like, that's just not possible. For example, I was staunchly against virtual reality and I was like, that's stupid. Like, that won't work. And now I am obsessed with it and it works. And it's one of the best things I've seen in dementia care. But I went years saying like that won't work without any evidence, but just being told by people above me that doesn't work. And so yeah, I look back and I wish I questioned things. I wish I wasn't scared to question why and why do we hide from the family? Well, what happened to make us do that? Or why do we, not use VR? What happened there? Um, and I'm trying to think with care specifically, because of course there's always things that we're taught that are just like, oh my gosh, why did we do that? I think just like the language too, like not having the person-centered language is something that I had to change in my head and really work on that, because when you're taught certain things, but specifically to care, I can't think of something right now. But I know there are, because I've learned and grown so much since those days on the floor. There were definitely things um that we shouldn't have done. I feel like, yeah, getting people up too fast, like, and pushing people to do things even when they don't want to do things, like like having to feel like you have to engage with people, like they have to do this activity to be successful today, and things like that, and kind of forgetting that there's a person with choice and autonomy. That was something that I had to really look back on and learn. But I feel like I'm not answering that question well.
No, I think you gave the point, and I think you gave the idea. So you talked about VR, and I love this idea. Have you tried the Apple Vision Pro? Have you done
I
the
haven't
demo of
tried
it?
that one.
So story. So it was like the week before my grandmother passed away, and they had the Apple Vision Pro demo at the Apple Store, and part of it is you get to experience um, this kid's birthday party, and you put this thing on, you like look at, and it's like a picture video thing, and it's like 3-dimensional depth, and it's like you're in this picture as though you're at this kid's birthday party and blowing out candles, and like kind of feels earth to this thing. And the new iPhones, you can start doing like 3-dimensional depth and photos and videos. It was really neat. And so you're in this, immersed in this thing. And I started tearing up. I was a weird guy. I started tearing up in the Apple Store because I was thinking my grandmother at this point couldn't effectively come with us to all the family functions that were not at where her and my grandfather lived. And so I was like, what could we do for my grandmother to bring her in and engage her in these events if she can't be there actively? We give her a bit of reminiscence therapy through this thing, and a bit of like, engagement in what's happening. She can't be there. I was like, this is amazing. Obviously it's awkward having thing in her head. I get all those things, but like this would have been so amazing. And I just was working through that and this was like a 2-minute clip thing with this candle birthday party thing, but it just impacted me so much. And this was a couple years ago now that I did this, and it still sits with me. Like that is the impact that these technologies can have, that when we apply them properly, it
Yes.
can truly transform their experience. And my grandmother obviously never had the chance to do it, but I would love to, see what that's like, to have them engaged in these functions that they can't be in. Maybe it's they live in the person living dementia lives in Vegas near you, but the family's in Edmonton near me, and we actually bring them in, make them feel like they are immersed in um, that event, and make them immersed with their family. They're re-engaged. They're not in a whole different place being
Nope.
cared for, not by the family. They're
They're the
now part of that family. Just how would that shift the internal perspective, internal understanding of what's happening in their day? I think, because instead of being like painting a wall on a door, now it's like they're physically immersed in this thing. They feel like they're engaged. There's the
Yeah,
speakers here that make it sound like they're
it's
there. They see
yeah.
it. They have the depth. They're immersed in it. I wrestle with that. I challenge with that, because that would do, I think it would do so much good. Obviously, it's
It
so cost prohibitive though.
it does do good. It is doing good. So I do the social media, and I'm a brand rep for Rendeavor. So they're the like number one senior living virtual reality, and they're incredible. My friend Kyle is the CEO, and he's absolutely brilliant. And what they've created, because, well, first off, they're the first to do any studies around dementia specifically in VR. And they were able to show that the more progressed someone is, the more beneficial the VR is, because they're immersed and they can't get distracted and they can actually enjoy it. Um, and they have a whole philosophy to how they present it. And that's what I was like, there's no way you can put that on someone's head. But the way that they present it and give them the power to hold it and things like that. And with Rendeavor, the person in the headset isn't doing any of the work. They're just experiencing. It's the person with the iPad kind of taking them on the journey for them. So they really just have to be. And I actually do lives on there so people can be in the VR or just watching on TV in groups. And I do trivia. I take them all over the world. I say, like, guess where we are. And we do, and I get to talk back and forth with seniors all over
Hmm.
the world. It's amazing. And then, but what you were saying about, being at events for people. So they work with hospices and hospitals, and they just do such wonderful work of bringing things to people when they can't go, or their big tagline is expanding worlds. And it's true. They have this where you can rent. So like the families, if your person's at a senior living, they have Endeavor, you can rent one of their GoPros, take it to the event, and then they'll put it into the VR for you. So they did a grandson's wedding, and she fully got to be at the wedding. Like, she got to walk around, she got to be there for everything. They taped the entire thing. So she had like 4 hours in a VR wedding. And so the grandson and new granddaughter got to come, and she was watching it. They were also there watching it and got to talk her through their entire wedding. And that's what they're literally providing this to people. It's incredible. And they just got a $4.5 million grant with the NIH to come into home care. So now they're going to be able to do this in home, and you can literally like sit on a couch in this VR with your loved one who's across the world and have a conversation right there. And then one more thing I'll just say, they just launched their dementia empathy training. So I'm sure you've heard like where you can do the dementia tours where you like put on glasses and you like walk through this, kind of thing. They did that, but in VR, and you literally experience executive functioning loss. You experience hallucinations. You experience task overload. You experience the color contrast issues and hearing issues. You experience what it's like to wake up and not know where you are and walk around a memory care hallway. It is very impactful. I was crying the first time I did it, but it truly is the closest I've ever seen to teaching empathy. It's incredible.
Those tours are so impactful, though. I mean, so used to teach at a college here in the business faculty, but they also had a healthcare wing, and then they started specializing in dementia stuff. So they ended up doing this tour, and I was like, I'm working on campus. So I asked, hey, can I do this? It was like an hour long experience where they you give these soles to put in your shoes, and they put these things on your ears and your hands, and you're basically this whole get up, right? But it's like experiencing what it's like to go through a day-to-day experience of a person living with dementia, between waking up and trying to make your coffee and have to try and accomplish these goals. I didn't really know what they were. Just trying to rationalize what it was. It was truly mind and comprehension shifting on what the
Yes.
experience for my grandmother was like at that point. It
Yeah.
really changed, gave me empathy for what she was going through.
Yeah. And it really shows us how we need to slow down. I mean, we need to slow down for these people. I mean, we're in the bathroom with them, like, in the care. This is kind of one of the tasks, and someone's telling you, okay, wash your face, brush your teeth, da, 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 and it's like, I haven't even gotten the light on. Like, we need to give them a second to acclimate to things. And that was one of the most powerful parts for me, is like, wow, just the overwhelm we put on people. And no wonder someone has a negative, expression behavior. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would too if I was overwhelmed all the time and someone's telling me a long list of things to do and I can barely get the first thing done. I would be so frustrated. I would have these too. Uh, it's really eye-opening.
100%. Well, Carrie, let's shift to lightning round.
I'm excited. Okay,
Okay.
do
Ready
it.
for first question?
Yes, and just whatever in one sentence.
Yeah, or one word, whatever you need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you want, I'll give you a sentence, Carrie.
Either
Whatever's the
one.
first thing to come to your mind.
I'm wordy, but okay.
Well, it's a challenge then. We should update to lightning challenge.
We should.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early bird or late bird?
That's hard because I kind of go between, but I love my early mornings. So let's do early.
What's one small thing that reliably makes you smile?
My dog.
What kind of dog?
She's like a little terrier. I don't know if you'll be able to see. No, no. There
Oh,
she
there
is.
we go.
I got her a little tattooed on me. I'm obsessed with Napa.
Napa?
Yeah, Nana and Papa put together because I lost my grandparents. Sorry to go sad for a second, but so we put them together and it's Napa.
Well, very nice. Uh, what's a habit you've kept in your day-to-day routine no matter what?
Coffee. Always.
Decaf or calf?
Oh, never decaf. Don't waste my time.
I got decaf right now in front of me. Don't judge.
No, I probably should do decaf if you can tell, but it's fine.
I mean, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning, so it's okay. What's one word people use about dementia that you'd happily retire?
Demented.
What's something people are surprised that you still enjoy?
Nickelback.
Oh, Canadian. From Alberta. Great.
I forgot. I always get crap for loving Nickelback, but man, I love them.
I mean, they're from like 3 hours, 2.5 hours south of me, so great.
Oh my gosh, if there's ever a big concert, please let me know because I will be front row screaming, crying.
I don't know if they're still playing, but yeah.
Oof,
Yeah, they're
who
from
knows?
Hannah. They're from Hannah, Alberta. Yeah.
I love that.
What does a good day feel like to you?
Being able to do what I want.
What's one assumption about dementia you push back on most?
Gosh. That people with dementia don't experience joy.
That's deep. What helps you reset on a hard day?
Honestly, a long walk and a silly podcast.
What platform have you seen the largest impact on caregivers?
I think Instagram.
What's the most human moment you've had recently?
I love that question. I'm trying to think. I think just being really present with my niece and nephew the other day at the bookstore. They were waiting for that, and it just felt so pure with them.
What's one thing you wish professionals understood better?
That people living with dementia can be a part of the process and the conversation, and they're there.
What's something that still makes you laugh out loud?
Carol Burnett every time without a doubt.
What's one thing about dementia care that makes you angry?
That there isn't like legit support for them when they get a diagnosis. It should be like, here you go, you have this whole thing, like you're gonna be set, we got you. Like it should, yeah.
What's one thing you won't give up control over?
How I utilize my voice as Dementia Darling.
What gives you energy right now?
Coffee. Good people give me energy right now.
What's one thing you want people to remember about living with dementia?
That there is still life to live. And life is not over with dementia. It just looks different.
What gives you hope?
Again, good people. Truly. People that are kind right now.
And you can take more than one sentence on the next question, or statement. I always leave the guests with the opportunity to have the last word and tell the listeners what they think that want to say. So the floor is yours, Carrie. What would you like to leave the listeners with?
I want everyone here that is caring for a loved one living with dementia or worried about their own brain health, and maybe they're worried they have dementia. Um, Please know that I know it's like cheesy and it can be annoying to hear this because it feels like you're alone, but I promise you, you're not alone in the hardship and the complexities of navigating what is ahead of you. You might feel alone, and that is so valid, but I don't want you to get stuck in isolation because there are people and there are experiences and there are supports um, that are waiting for you and want to be a part of your journey. And I just don't want you to discount yourself or your journey and think it's over because there's so much joy. There's so much more. And we just have to grow and adapt and utilize what's out there. And I just, I want you to know that I'm cheering you on. You are doing enough. You are an incredible person. Just please give yourself grace and know that you are showing up, and just doing your best is all that you can do. Please don't live in guilt. Don't live in shame. Just give yourself grace. You are human and you are doing it all. You're amazing.
Thank you, Carrie,
Thank you.
for that note, and thank you so much for joining us. I know this is going to be such a blessing to our listeners. There's so much wisdom that you provided, so thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thank you for being here. If today's conversation resonated with you, follow the Dementia Collective wherever you get your podcast and share this episode with someone who you think might benefit. And if you'd like to help us grow this movement, please consider being a member of the Village on Patreon. Among the benefits, like the ability to ask questions to our guests, you'll get early access to every episode, plus the satisfaction of helping powerful voices like Carrie's reach more caregivers around the world. Finally, if you're on your own caregiving journey, remember, you are not alone. We're here at BlueBell to help connect you with the supports and resources that truly fit your caregiver's needs. Until next time, remember, you are strong, you are not alone, and you are doing something that matters more than you know.